This is a short little video about the Lyktgubbe, the Swedish folklore being that is supposed to shine a mysterious little light in the woods and the marshes. But before I start, I want to just proclaim that there might be a bit fewer videos from me for a while going, but hopefully the videos will be even more interesting for you. I have just started new university studies again, and I am a full-time student now, 50% of gender studies and 50% of Old Norse religion and folk belief. And battling two different classes full-time of course take a bit of extra time and might make my videos a bit further apart from each other the following year, depending on how much schoolwork I have at the moment. These are not all the books on my reading list for the semester, but just look at all these amazing fun books I have to read. Viking World, Heathen Echoes, The Poetic Edda and Feminist Mythology, just to mention a few. So I am right now pondering on making a few videos about the Old Norse religion and their gods, and probably do a pair of videos where I discuss gender roles in both older and later folklore. But that is for the future. Now let's instead talk about the Lyktgubbe. There is a phenomenon of mystical lights nearby marshes and bogs all around the world. The modern science have explained this as natural gas from the bogs that for some reason self-ignites and causes this green or cold white lights that seems like they are dancing just above the ground. These lights have of course both fascinated and scared people during the history, and they have hundreds of different names around the world. Will-O-The-Wisp, Friar's Lantern and Hinkepunk in the English-speaking areas of Europe, St. Louis Light in Saskatchewan, the Naga Fireballs in the Mekong in Thailand and the Hessdalen Light in Norway. In Swedish folklore they are very often called Lyktgubbar, which means lantern man. This is a being that crosses into a lot of other beings in one way or another. In some areas the mysterious lights are called fatuus, with the meaning elven lights, and it's looked upon as something that other creatures like Kitten or the elves used to lure people out of their protected home area or to help people find their way in the dark. It all depends a bit on what kind of relationship you had with the supernatural. The word is almost the same as the name fatuus, which means death lights, and it is also a supernatural little flame people would see as a warning that somebody soon would die. Fatuus or fatuus is not the same being as Lyktgubbe, but they are very similar and probably stems from the same kind of mysterious lights that science have such a hard time to explain. When these lights are called Lyktgubbar, they are believed to be lights from the ghosts of men that in their living had worked as land surveyors. Not all people working as land surveyor get turned into a Lyktgubbe when they died, but if that person had been taken bribes and money to measure the lands wrongly, or if someone illegally had taken land that wasn't theirs, they was now doomed to walk the earth as this being. They have to remeasure the correct land borders for eternity unless someone helped them correct the wrongly placed border markers. They can also be greyish little men that can show you where a treasure is buried, but you need to be totally quiet when you dig up the treasure, or the treasure will disappear in front of your eyes and would never be found again. This might sound easy, but the magical forces will try and make you speak, sometimes by showing you something very ridiculous, as a hen drawing a little cart backwards. The Lyktgubbe is supposed to look like a little old man, grey or greyish-green in his appearance. And it is not always you see the man, you might just see the light from his lantern. He is a strange little creature, because just like a lot of Scandinavian folklore beings, he could both save you and make you lost. But it seems like this was more depending on his mood than how you actually behaved. If you were lost and followed the light, it could mean that he actually showed you the way home. But sometimes if you followed him, you would get so lost that you would not recognize your own house, even if you stood right next to it. So to be certain of this, do not follow the lights.
This way. Don't follow the lights.
I know you are thinking the same as me now. Yes, the Lord of the Ring movies. In a movie where Frodo, Sam and Gollum enters the big marshes on their journey, Gollum warns Frodo and Sam, do not follow the lights. In the book it is phrased a little bit different, I think, and where Tolkien got this idea from about the little greenish lights that lit up the marshes is something I'm not sure of. He could easily have made this up based on any kind of spooky light myth from around the world. We do know, however, that he was very into Scandinavian folklore and religion, and he could have gotten this idea from this creature. Because it is said very often about this little lantern man, do not follow his light. Sometimes when you encounter the little grey man, he will ask you for money. And you better pay him or you will get dizzy and never find your way home again. There is also stories about how a man sees this ghost with his lantern, walking at the rightful borderline to now and then stop and say, here it is right, here it is wrong. The man realized that he has a pocket full of nails, so he started follow the Lyktgubbe, and every time the being is saying, here it is right, the man put down a nail and answered, and I am marking it. This went on for a long time, and suddenly, when the sun was just about to rise above the trees, the man didn't have any nails left. He started to pick off his clothes and use them, and finally he stood there stark naked, and the Lyktgubbe marked out one last place. The man then placed himself as a marker and said, and I am marking it. Just when he'd done that, the sun started to let his first light show. The Lyktgubbe then turned to the man and said, it was good luck for you that you managed to get the last marker out. Otherwise I would have had to drag you down to the underworld. But now you have released me from my pain and endless walking, so instead I will thank you. And he opened a huge stone just next to where the man stood and showed the man a huge amount of gold. This is all yours now, he said, but hear my warning. Do not move the markers or do not say anything about what have happened here until you have collected your reward and the original markers have been correctly moved. And then he was gone. The man had to go home all naked to his wife, and she of course wondered why on earth he had been gone all night and why he came home without his clothes. She didn't believe him and accused him of being unfaithful to her, since he didn't come home with any clothes on his back. This man really loved his wife and didn't want her to think so badly of him, so he told her about what had happened and said that he could prove by getting the treasure that he had not been unfaithful. He still didn't believe him, and lo and behold, of course, since he had told her all about it, when he came back to the place the treasure was gone. He only found his clothes. The man apparently got totally crazy after this, digging up half the forest during his lifetime in search for that treasure. But he never found as much as a penny. So, what do we learn from this? Well, first off, it is not good to accuse your man of being unfaithful, even if he comes home in the morning hours without any clothes, looking like he had a hell of a night. And second of all, pride comes before fall. If your wife accuses you of being unfaithful, just don't come dragging with some crazy story about a lantern ghost and how you are promised a big treasure from him. The treasure will be gone and you will still not be able to prove anything for your wife. The Lyktgubbe stories hold a lot of the typical morale of old folklore. It teaches you that you will be punished in the next life if you do crimes, even if you got away with it and got filthy rich during your lifetime. But those treasures are not something you will be able to take with you when you die. Just try and be a good and lawful citizen instead. It also, of course, have the things mentioned already about the wife getting the man into trouble because she nags on him, and the man falling for his wife's nagging and thus expose the secret and lose it all. This is a very common theme of a lot of the folklore stories. So, that was a bit about the Lyktgubbe. A bit shorter than I usually make my folklore videos, but I hope you enjoyed it anyway. I will now go back to my study books and I wish you all the best and hope that you have a nice week. Until next time, do not follow the light.